Give this a second to process. We got anybody out there in Twitch world? It's Saturday, and that means it's time for the Saturday Warhammer War Room, broadcasting live from Southern California. It's warm again. We had a couple of cool days, but it started to heat up again. Hello, hello. I see people starting to filter in. Welcome. We will have Jessica Lynn Verdi with us. She will be tuning in remotely. That also means that we're broadcasting via StreamYard, so notifications are going to be, not the same as they usually are. But I've got my Twitch window open, so I should be able to see that too. All right, got a lot of things to talk about today, so hopefully everybody is ready. Is everybody ready? Are you all ready out there? And I love the delay in like, who's watching? Who knows? We never know. We never really know. Okay. Let's start. I think I figured out how to share my screen. I want to talk about Blood Bowl. So I think, let's see if this will work. I'm going to try to share my screen. Can I share it bigger? There we go. Okay, let's watch the trailer for Blood Bowl 3. Hold on 1 second. Okay, here we go. And it's supposed to have sound. What do I have to press to make it have sound? Well, it's the end anyway. Well, I'm sorry. It was supposed to have sound. Sorry about that. Damn it. Why do always things end up scuffed? First try, right? Okay. Anyway, so that's Blood Bowl. And I really love the super cinematic animated versions of Blood Bowl from the video game, because that really gives you a sense of how ridiculous. I was hearing it. I don't know. Okay. Well, anyway, it had sound, so it wasn't just me laughing along with it. Yeah. So Blood Bowl, super fun game. I've played quite a bit of it, actually, compared to some of the other games that I talk about that I've never played or played once upon a time. So Blood Bowl is a tabletop game. It's not really a war game. It's I guess you could call it like a skirmish game, essentially, but it's a sports game. It's American football with fantasy races and creatures and a lot of rules, a lot of dice rolling, and really funny stuff happening. So yeah, we've been playing Blood Bowl. The latest edition has been going on for a couple of years now, and a new version comes out next week. So pre-orders went out today for the next version of Blood Bowl. And what you watched is the trailer for the Blood Bowl 3 video game, which is coming soon, right? 2020 soon, trademark. Early next year, in theory. And what's always been one of the really cool things about Blood Bowl for people who might like the tabletop or might like the Doctor, or I just saw Squirrel, I just saw your comment and it burned a hole into my brain. Yeah, for those of you who like video games more, the really cool thing about Blood Bowl is it's the exact same game on the tabletop and on the video game. So if you learn one, you can go and play the other and vice versa. So a lot of people that I know, like, they learned how to play the video game and then they went and learned, and then they could pick up the miniatures and play that way. So if you, like I said, before the pandemic, we were starting to play Blood Bowl on Hyper, and people could follow along at home by learning how to play the video game. So they just this week gave more information about Blood Bowl 3, the video game, and it's the same thing. It's going to be the exact same rules as the new version of Blood Bowl, and it should be a lot of fun. It looks great. Not only is it, all of the action, all the teams that we're used to, but there's a player editor, so you can actually customize the look of your teams down to the uniforms, the paint, the blood splatter, the wear and tear, all the different little accessories and doodads on your characters. So that's really cool. So I recommend you check that out. Now, what's also neat that Games Workshop is doing, and yeah, Zardoz, like, especially with considering pricing, so going on pre-order today is the boxed set for the new version of Blood Bowl, and you get 2 teams in the box, you get a pitch, that's where you play, you get all of the dugout areas and all of the tokens and dice you need. But if you pre-order the game, I think just from Games Workshop stores, not from like your local independent store, but it comes with a Steam code that you'll get access to the video game once it goes to closed beta. So that's an even bigger added bonus to getting your hands on the game now. Yeah, Zardoz. And again, like there's a lot of weird pricing going on with Games Workshop stuff right now. When they got rid of Start Collecting, and now they have these Combat Patrol boxes, which are $140, which is a lot to ask somebody who's like just getting in. Hey, you want to get into Warhammer 40K? Here's a box of models to start you, and it's almost $150. That's kind of a lot. And it doesn't come with a rule book, and it doesn't come with any of the other stuff you need to play. But that's the way things go. So yes, so what is new about this new version of Blood Bowl? Well, it sounds like sort of what they did with going from Warhammer 8th edition to 9th edition, where they just tweaked some things and added some new things. The previous version, so going from 7th to 8th, was a bigger change, especially how the numbers worked. So there was a big thing in 7th edition Warhammer 40K where you had to calculate a lot of your numbers based on 7s. So if you had a 3, so if you had like a ballistic score of 3, and then you would think like, okay, what do I need to roll? I need to roll 4 in order to hit, because it's 7 minus 3, so I get 4. So it's a bunch of stuff like that. And the current edition of Blood Bowl is very much those rules, but then what they're showing us this new one is it's new rules. So instead it just gives you target numbers. What do I need to make this save? A 3. What do I need to make this dodge? A 4. Okay, good. I don't have to like calculate every single number, which, got silly after a while. So there are target numbers. They've separated. Now this is huge, because it used to be in Blood Bowl that every character had, a lot of math in 7th edition. Hudsonizer and Emily, well, welcome. Thank you for sticking along with us. So Blood Bowl is essentially American football with fantasy races crashing around on the battlefield, well, the pitch, as they call it. And the idea behind Blood Bowl is it's your turn. Your team is trying to score with the ball. And as soon as you fail a dice roll or a die roll, then it's a turnover to the other team. Okay, so these are general sports terms that I think a lot of people can understand. And then the fun happens is because everything you try to do in the game has to do with a lot of dice rolling. So you inevitably are going to roll something that's going to fail. It's going to turn over right in the middle of a crazy tactic you were trying to do, and that's why it's so much fun. But it used to be that a lot of your abilities and things that you could do were tied up into one score, your just general agility score. And for this new version, they've actually separated out into agility versus pass in. So, and that's huge. That's like a groundbreaking thing for Blood Bowl. I know it sounds silly, but hey, there's just two different rules for things. But yeah, that's big. They've streamlined some things and added a lot more complexity to other things, which is, again, totally in the realm of Blood Bowl and how it should be. So now when you throw the ball, you can fumble it or throw an inaccurate pass, and it can. So then basically you get options with deflecting the ball or intercepting the ball, and yeah, it's super fun. So I have a few Blood Bowl teams lying around. One of them that I've been actually working on painting is my Ork team. So again, these are standard Blood Bowl Orks. Let me get the camera to focus. So they look like this. So again, they are Ork football players. So I've given them yellow shirts, white or grayish pants. They have green skin. They have purple armor. I'm going to go in there and do some metallics and a bunch of other stuff. Here is a Ork thrower. So he's ready to throw that football. Depending on the teams, the actual little football miniatures look very different. Sometimes they're little creatures. Oftentimes they have spikes all over them. Look, I do painting every once in a while. And there are a whole bunch of teams that used to be in production that are no longer, but they still give you the rules in case you have those old miniatures, or if you kit bash your own or find some third-party miniatures that can take the place of those. So those are fun. And yeah, like I said, there are lots of like unique dice for the game with different symbols that you have to learn. But usually it means that people fall down and and horrible things happen. There are measuring tools. And again, I don't know exactly what all the tokens and stuff are for the new edition yet, but like here's how you measure how long a pass is. You see the little notations for like a 1 is a quick pass, and then longer, which obviously makes it harder to do longer passes. Yeah, well, Squirrel, so the origin story of Blood Bowl is that it took place essentially in the Warhammer fantasy world, and things get complicated over time. But yeah, there was this giant war, a war to end all wars, and it was going on for forever. And then in the middle of the war, part of the battlefield collapsed, and people went down into this depression to see what was in there, and they found a book. And inside the book were the rules for Blood Bowl, and they realized, wait a minute, we don't need to keep fighting this war. We could play this game to decide everything in the universe. Yeah, and it's the ancient temple of Nuffle. Nuffle like NFL. And yeah, Blood Bowl is just full of ridiculous references to other things, and it's genuinely a fun, silly game. Well, it could be. I mean, you could get really serious about it. There are all sorts of rules for cheating and how you get away with it or fail to get away with it, and then your players get ejected from the game. It's great. So I wanted to show briefly, because some of the new stuff for Blood Bowl is really neat, actually. So it's Better Quidditch. There you go. Yeah, it's a fantasy game, and it's fun. So they've added some new teams as well. So every time there's a new edition of Blood Bowl, they add new teams. And yeah, Squirrel, exactly. Okay, let me see if I can share this other screen. And there's no audio this time, so we don't have to worry about that. Here we go, this one. Huzzah! Okay, so that's what the new box and the actual board game looks like. And again, the components look pretty much the same as the current version, so that's good. Obviously, a new rule book, so things like that that people will need. All right, let's see if I can figure out how to. All right, cool. So these are now in the existing version of the game, the orc team had two of these guys. These are black orc blockers. In this new version, there's an entire black orc team. Right, Zardoz? Yes, another one of the best and goofiest rules of Blood Bowl is that every time it switches to your turn, before you do anything, you have to move a little marker on your little marker sheet. And if you fail to do that before you do anything in the game, your opponent can call illegal procedures, and then you suffer various penalties. It's super goofy. It can be super annoying for people who cannot remember to do that, but it's pretty great. So we've got this black orc team, which is really neat. Black orcs, goblin bruisers, and then they can add a trained troll to their team. Let's see what the other one is. Oh, so here's another shot from the video game. And there's a new human team, the Imperial Nobility. They're fancy. They've got this like really fancy armor, lots of feathers and wings all over it, pantaloons. I have no interest in that team. Wait, that's for later. Oh, and then this one. So these are the necromantic horrors. These are super rad. And again, you can paint these however you want. So they'll give you some reference, right? So like these are painted in clearly a Halloween theme, but you can do whatever you want. And every box, I should have grabbed one. Every boxed team has a name, like a silly version of, a Blood Bowl team name, but you can do it however you want. Name your team, paint it whatever colors you want. That's like on mine. I came up with my own paint scheme. It's nothing to do with what the standard box is. I think I called my team is the Philadelphia Greebles, something like that. I know I wrote it down somewhere. But yeah, so these are the necromantic horrors, consisting of zombie linemen, ghoul runners, wraiths, werewolves, and flesh golems that look like Frankenstein's monster. I really want to get this team. And I think from different pictures they've shown, I think you have different head options. I don't think you have to go with all the pumpkin themed ones. But I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, this one's really cute. Yeah, and part of the fun is coming up with your team name, because they basically encourage you to go as silly as possible, or to base it off of a real, like an NFL team, but make it silly. And then possibly even better, the best thing about the Necromantic Horrors team is look at their dice. Every team you can, if you want, buy their own specific themed and colored dice, and this is the Necromantic Horror dice. Yeah, Hudson is a really good question. Does Blood Bowl have canonically famous players? Yeah, so there are what are called star players, and they are named characters in that universe that you essentially, when you build your team, you pay gold. Like gold is essentially the points, so that's how you determine if one team is equal balanced in relation to another one. And then as you play in a season or a tournament or a campaign, whatever it is, you'll earn gold that then you can spend to upgrade characters, heal people who have been injured or died, and yes, that happens in Blood Bowl, or recruit star players that exist in that world. Yeah. Yeah, Griff Oberwald is a human. Yeah, all right. Yeah, if you have a team, definitely put it in chat. So yeah, we've had a Skaven team named Nice Little Mice. I love it. Norse team was the Lake Wobegon Blood Eagles. Chaos Midian Dancing Baptist. Yeah, it's like I said, that's definitely a big part of playing the game, is coming up with team names. Just like previous editions of Blood Bowl, Games Workshop, they build into the game. This game is not, first of all, it's not for everybody. You don't necessarily have to have any familiarity or love of sports, like this guy here, but it's just silly fun. And they freely admit that the teams are wildly imbalanced. So they talk about the teams being in one of three tiers. So tier 1 teams are good teams that could potentially win a tournament. Tier 2 teams are a little tougher to play. They might have a little bit more nuance to how they work, and they're really only going to win a tournament in the hands of a good player. And then there are Tier 3 teams. And what do we mean by Tier 3 teams? Well, Tier 3 teams, as they say, are teams that you only play if you want to have fun, but not win, but have fun. And if somehow the stars align and you win with a Tier 3 team, it'll be like the most famous, best story you'll ever have to relate, because they will almost never win. But that's the fun of it. And people still buy and play those teams. So in Blood Bowl, the Tier 3 teams are, yes, the traditionally the halflings, and then the goblins / snotlings. And they're you're not going to win, but you're going to have fun, and it's super silly. But you definitely need to go in with that mentality. Otherwise you're not going to have a good time. A real underdog story. Exactly right. Let's see. Yeah, so in a nutshell, that's what's going on with Blood Bowl. You can, like I said, you can pre-order all that stuff today. Check with your local stores, because Games Workshop is doing a lot of allocations right now, and it's kind of rough, especially on the independent stores. Now, last week, up for pre-order was something that I was really excited about. So this is a commemorative series model. You can only order it this week, although it's you can order it online for a few more days, I think. So it's one of these classic dwarf characters that they re-envision every couple of years into a different form. So again, we've seen some of these fantasy dwarf characters in Warhammer 40K style and in other things. So this is, now they actually released a painting video to how to paint this in this style, and they said his name, and I said it wrong last time. I assumed that was Jacob, and it's Jakob. So this is Jakob Bugmanson, the 11th Brewmaster General. So I ran out and picked this guy up this morning and built him super, super quick. And this is not a push fit. This is an actual cut it out, glue it together, paint it model. It came together mostly well. There's a little bit of a gap where his color. Oh no! Oh man! Sometimes when you hold things up real close to the camera and it autofocuses, it changes the color. So now I look like I'm underwater. Great. Anyway, he's cool. He's got a tankard in his hand. He's got more hanging off of his backpack there. Now, as we talked about last week, Bugmanson here is in the style of the Caradron Overlords. And I brought out, so he doesn't have rules, right? There's no actual rules to play this guy, but you can swap him out for any of the other figures like this in your army. And it's just so happens that I do have an army like that. So here are some of the HQ figures, which they're really neat. They have this really ornate, fancy armor. They're dwarves, so they've got a lot of hammers and things like that. I don't remember what all of these guys are called. I believe this is an ether chemist. And again, they are covered head to toe in armor. So those are armored beards. I mean, this one has like all sorts of goofy stuff in his beard armor, but they're super private. They never show their skin to outsiders. And and they're flying fantasy dwarves with power armor and powered weapons. So yeah, essentially you would like play this dude, but swap out the model for Bugmanson. Yeah, I mean he's got beer. I don't know what you would just do something with the beer. And yes, he did come with an optional unhelmeted head that I did not really like. And if you're going to play him as a Caradron Overlord's character, again, they never take off their helmets. So you would never, that would be wrong, I tell you. But at least they give you the option. And maybe somebody wants that head and I can give it to them. because I will never, ever use it. All right. And we also talked about over they're kind of like Mandalorians. This is the way. They never take off their... I don't remember the exact lore. I assume back at home, I mean, they must take off their armor at some point. But certainly not in public and not in battle. Now, one of the things I want to talk about is we've been talking about Space Marine chapters and how you can... This could be the general... Yes. It may not be the way, but it's the general direction. So when it comes to Warhammer 40K and also Age of Sigmar, Games Workshop tells you, here are the poster children for this army. Here's what they look like. If you're talking about Space Marines, which we usually are, here are the Ultramarines. They're blue. They have their own little symbol. I mean, they're on everything. Pretty much everything I reach for to grab has Ultramarines on it. There are more Ultramarines on the back. But you can make your own unique chapters. Give them your own name. You give them your own paint scheme, whatever you want it to be, their own lore. There are options in the actual game mechanics where you can pick and choose from a number of Space Marine abilities, so you can really customize even the rules for your army as it plays on the battlefield. Now, in addition to all of that, in addition to actual chapters that are in the rule books, in addition to all the ones that you can make on your own, Games Workshop gives you even more potential chapters to use. So we've talked... I showed you last time that there's a Games Workshop magazine that comes out every month, thereabouts, called White Dwarf. And White Dwarfs gives you just a ton of bonus content for all of the games they make. Behind the scenes, extra stories, extra campaigns, more painting guides, a bunch of crap like that. Sometimes even like little cards and bonus things that come with it. Zardoz, it actually, absolutely, it's part magazine, part catalog, part here, buy this other game that you may not have been playing. But one of the really cool things is sometimes they get together with people who work for Games Workshop, or even the fans occasionally, and present new factions or new sub-factions for the game. So just recently, they've been working on a Space Marines chapter called the Tome Keepers. Now, for any of you who are familiar with the Horus Heresy and the Traitor Legions, this could be a problem because it might remind you of... Let me see if I can... So there's a Traitor Legion called the Word Bearers that are all about books and sharing the word. That's not good. But no, these are good guys. These are traditional Space Marines. And again, what's really cool is that over the course of a couple of issues of White Dwarf, they've talked about these guys, given them lore, given them a paint scheme. They tell you how to paint them and all sorts of stuff. But I wanted to show because it's really cool. So again, I don't have the book in front of me anymore. But when you are designing your own Space Marine chapter, you have a ton of stuff to play with. Obviously, the name of the chapter itself, the paint scheme, where on the model different colors are going to go, where the decorations are going to go, what special things you can add to it. And they really do give you a cool example of how to do all that stuff here in White Dwarf. Here is an example of the models they've made for this chapter painted up, and they're super cool. And again, while the diagram was really white, here they're definitely a little bit off-white, which looks nice. We've got a nice range of characters there, of skin tones, which is always nice to see. And then in the new White Dwarf, they continue on talking about these, and they give you some rules. They made up rules for one of the characters, and I thought it was really cool that the captain for the Tome Keepers is Captain Nassim. Not Naeem, it's close, but Nassim. And again, they made up a special pistol that he has, and he has some special rules. They blur it out at the bottom of this preview because you got to get the magazine to find out what the actual rules are. But it's just an example of what you can do for your own Space Marine chapter, or again, almost any faction you play in Warhammer 40k or Age of Sigmar, even the ones that are traditionally like, this is the colors, this is the way they look. Even with those, you have options of making your own, putting your own stamp on it, making your own version of it, which I think is really cool. I think that helps to get more people into the game. It's like, oh, do I have to do it like that? No. You can paint them however you want, whatever colors, make up your own names. It's all good. All right, what is next? Okay, let's look at a couple of the things and talk about a couple of the things that are on their way. Now, this was an interesting week for Games Workshop. The main focus this weekend is Blood Bowl, right? Pre-order the main set, a bunch of different team boxes. There's a alien creature that exists in Warhammer 40k called the Zote, and there's a Zote you can buy from Forge World to play in your Blood Bowl games. It's ridiculous. It's sort of like a crocodile centaur, sort of, essentially. Yes, as Zardoz mentions, Games Workshop traditionally does these bundle boxes at the end of the year. Sometimes they're called battle forces, sometimes they're called other things, and generally they are actually a way you can save money. Games Workshop is very averse to offering any sort of discount, but these are some of the rare examples of, if you buy this bundle versus buying each part individually, you will actually save money, which is kind of crazy. But for some of you who might be into some other aesthetics, especially, let's take a look at... so the Death Guard will not go away. I mean, it makes sense because they were the poster child bad guys of the previous edition. So in addition to the Space Marine Heroes set of Death Guard, blind box Death Guard that just came out today, and my local store, they already have sold a bunch of like the cases. People are just buying the whole thing. So there's this. And I'll let you tell me in chat what you think this looks like, because people have opinions. So what does this thing look like to you? Now I'll tell you what it is. This is the Death Guard Miasmic Malignifier, which just sounds gross right off the bat. Similar to the Hammerfall bunker for the Space Marines, this is a piece of terrain, right? You're going to set it up. It looks wrong in so many ways. You're going to set this thing up on the board, and it's going to have this one. Well, we don't know all the rules for it. It's been previewed. It's still coming soon, so this isn't coming up next week like usual. Probably 2 weeks, really. We know that it has some aura effects. Essentially, it spits out a bunch of gross fog and putrescent ooze. So any friendlies nearby get the benefit of being in cover because it's so hard to see through all the crap that this thing spits out. And it says nearby enemies suffer terribly in its proximity, which I assume means it stinks as well. It'll have some other interesting rules. And if it's destroyed, it explodes. It would be neat if you could make it explode yourself. But yes, most people are saying that this is clearly a bong, and then of course going on with jokes based on that. More like something from a Slanesh army. I don't know. It's pretty gross. Yeah, and I don't know what like the separate piece is. Does that pop out of it? Does it open up? I don't know. It's gross. I'm sure Death Guard people will love it. They'll paint this thing just horrifically. There'll be all sorts of ooze and things spilling out of it. It's, typical Death Guard stuff. Another feature that... Oh, if I do that, then it goes away. They have poor taste. They play Death Guard. Of course. Now, we marked an anniversary in Games Workshop in Warhammer 40k. It's been 1 year since the new Sisters of Battle came out, the Adepta Sororitas. Now, if you're not familiar with the Sisters of Battle, well, they're really cool. You should be familiar with them. But essentially, there's a branch of the Imperium of Man. So these are humans that we're talking about, and dedicated to basically dedicated to the religion of worshiping the Emperor, who is not a god, as he tells everybody or told everybody. But there was this old archaic rule that they could not have an army of men. Essentially, you can't have an armed fighting force for you, no militia, nothing like that. But then, like, wait a minute, no army of men, huh? Aha! So they made an army of women, and those are the Sisters of Battle, Adeptus Sororitas, different names for it. Nuns with guns. There are some other less savory names that people have come up with for them. But like I said, it's been a year since, and then, but they're still coming out with new models. So they previewed this one. She looks awesome. They've done just a really great job. The old Sisters of Battle miniatures were, I mean, for their time, they were okay. You had a lot of really exaggerated boob plate. They all had for a time, they all had high heels. It wasn't super great. But the newer models, they all have this sort of style. And they're really cool. Games Workshop has sold 1 billion of these things. They are very popular with a lot of people, whether you play the army or not. They're just great models. So this one is going to theoretically. Ooh, actually, you know what? It's interesting. So they've just previewed this as a new model that's coming up. It is specifically called the Palatine, and it's essentially a lieutenant. It lets friendlies nearby reroll ones to wound. And now I was thinking, well, is this going to be an individual release? But what if they bundled this model in the Sisters of Battle Combat Patrol box and made everybody go out and buy that box just to get this one new model? I would not put it past Games Workshop to do that. The Palpatine. It's the Palatine. Yeah, I bet, you know what? I bet that's what it's going to be. Those monsters. They're going to make us buy a whole new box just to get the one new miniature. Or it's the December free month. Maybe. But yes, all that they said is that this wonderful model is coming soon. So obviously, if I hear anything about it, I will let you know. They'll preview it at some point, and we'll find out more. We talked a little bit last week about the other box, one of the other boxed games that Games Workshop has called Necromunda, which is gang wars in the Warhammer 40k setting, which has some really interesting, iconic gangs with different looks. The models are really cool, and Games Workshop we talked about those with the squats, because there are 2 squats that exist in that game that you can play, in Necromunda. And then every so often, Games Workshop will add just like really wild characters or creatures. So in this case, they have kitties. Yeah, they're rat. There's just all sorts of bizarre, wacky things that go on. So one of the structures that exist in Warhammer 40k, it's called they're called hives or hive cities. And if you think of battle cats. Yeah, unfortunately they're on the same bases as these, so they're not bigger than a standard miniature, but yeah, they do look like that. So a hive city is essentially, if you think of like an arcology from a lot of science fiction. So it's a gigantic city that's within one structure, and then inside are like 1,000 levels, and the rich people live at the top, the poor people live at the bottom. It's all of that typical stuff, but way, way bigger and way, way crappier for everybody involved, because it's Warhammer and it's grim and it's dark. So hive cities are terrible, and typically you'll have entire hive worlds where the hive cities are so massive that they take up essentially the entire planet. And yeah, like I said, for 99.9999% of the population, life is a living hell. On some of these planets, they literally never see the sun, and there's cannibalism, and it's just really, really awful. So Necromunda is a hive world, and you never know what you're going to find at the bottom of a hive. Alien creatures, Xenos creatures who've come in, chaos worshipping things, and right. And as Zardoz noted, a lot of times hives are created and hive worlds are created because otherwise that world is so toxic to humanity, usually because of what humans have done to it. But it's the only place you can live. You can't really go outside. You can't go outside for fresh air on hive planets. So these are it's PHYRR cats. So it's probably like a play on fear cats or peer cats, whatever you want to call it. Cults are everywhere. So yeah, so this will be coming up soon. Now, we talk about how these games evolve and we get new additions, and one of the ways that things don't always catch up is Games Workshop, over the 35 years they've been doing Warhammer 40K, around there, they made models that they no longer work, or they no longer make anymore, especially when it comes to Forge World. Now, if you're new, you may not be familiar with the name Forge World. So Games Workshop is a big company. They try to do every single thing they can in-house. Try not to have anybody else have control over anything they do. So Games Workshop prints their own printed materials. They make their own miniatures, and they actually make all of this stuff in England, which is crazy. They do make a couple things in China, but that's rare. Most of this stuff is actually made in the UK. Like I said, in-house, they can control everything, oversee everything, and that's, for the most part, I think people would agree that that's good. They've come up with a level of quality you don't really see in mass production from other companies. So they have Games Workshop, which makes their, like, the standard Warhammer models, and then they have a side company called Forge World, and Forge World is where they make their special models. Just about everything from Forge World is resin versus the much easier to build plastic from standard Games Workshop. Forge World has its own separate website. It's a separate thing you have to order through. You can't just like make an order with some models from one and some models from the other. No, you got to do it separate and pay shipping and all of that. But over the years, Forge World stuff comes and goes, right? They'll have a model. It'll be available for a number of years. They'll discontinue it. Sometimes they're making like a new mold or adding something new, or sometimes it just disappears off the website and it's gone forever, which unfortunately it happens. Now the Forge World models are made or designed or to be played in Warhammer 40K, and then also in Age of Sigmar for some of them, sometimes Necromunda, all these. Basically, Forge World makes special models for all of their other games. There are even Forge World models for Blood Bowl, the star players we were talking about. But again, Forge World will sometimes just stop selling models, and then you're left with, well, I bought this thing and it cost me $100, $200, $1,000, and I built it and I painted it. Well, if you don't make it anymore, can I still play it? And the answer is usually. Now, can you play it based on the traditional rulebook you get for Warhammer 40K? No. So even just to play a Forge World model, you have to buy a separate book, of course. But then what happens is after a certain amount of time has passed that a model has been discontinued, well, they shuffle off these models into a world called Legends. So Warhammer Legends has been around for a couple of years now, and it's been collecting discontinued or out of print models. So these are models you can't go out and buy anymore, but they don't want to punish you for having bought them once upon a time. So you can still play them. They print out rules that are available online for free, which is kind of amazing that there's not actually a book you have to buy. And you can download it, and then you can play them in your games. But the gimmick is they are never going to update these rules again. Okay. But when a new edition of Warhammer comes out, though, they'll probably update the legends at least so you can play it in that new edition. So it's kind of they're kind of having it the best of both ways. Hey, Erdens, welcome. Oh yeah, Squirrel. Games Workshop has spent more than 40 years, about 40 years, figuring out more than 40 years, the precise best ways of separating people from their monies. Typically, it's sad when your favorite models get moved into Legends, but it's not always the worst thing in the world. So last week, it was a big announcement for this new edition. They shuffled a whole bunch of Forge World stuff into Legends. They released the PDF online that anybody can get, and for some people, it was shocking, but like I said, not for everything. For Space Marines, a whole bunch of specific characters for specific chapters, like the Minotaurs, the Red Scorpions. So again, and these are things that the vast majority of people will never have heard of. They exist in the lore. They had these crazy Forge World models you could get. But a lot of those, they're legends now. There used to be a Chaplain Dreadnought, which was crazy. That's out. There was a really cool vehicle that I was thinking of getting that's now no longer available, and now it's Legends. So it's like, well, that's out the window. I'm never buying that now. And then they had possibly one of the craziest things for Space Marines. I can't even show you because of there are a couple of essentially drop ships that blur the line between a spaceship and an aircraft for Space Marines. And there's one called the Thunderhawk. Now, again, this model is huge. It's hundreds of dollars on Forge World. So there's a standard version that flies down, drops off a whole bunch of troops in it. It actually has a turbo laser on top. Turbo laser you probably have only heard in relation to Star Wars, but it exists in Warhammer. And so no, Zardoz, not the whole Thunderhawk, just the Thunderhawk transporter, which was a specialized version of the Thunderhawk that could even carry vehicles, which was just preposterous and super great. This thing could carry 2 Rhino chassis tanks, APCs, whatever you want to call them, or it could actually carry a Land Raider and drop it off on the battlefield. So you can essentially like deep strike a Land Raider, which there's almost no other way to do, but super fun shenanigans. But that, now it's Legends, be gone. The thing that got the most attention in this batch of Legends, and you may have heard from our friends like Bert, there's a faction of Imperial Guards, the Astra Militarum. It's humanity's last best hope. Space Marines, they're like the elite. They come in and deal with just like the craziest, biggest problems. But the real guts, the real soul of the Imperium is the Astra Militarum. These are base humans who are recruited literally by the millions to die in war, to just get ground to nothing. The standard Astra Militarum trooper has a las gun that's little better than a flashlight. It's very weak. Now, they do have some cool tanks and some other things like that. But one of the things that Games Workshop has done over the years, just like Space Marines have different chapters, the Astra Militarum has had different regiments. And they're from different planets. They have their own traditions. They have their own specific uniforms and looks to them. And one of the more popular ones was the Death Corps of Krieg. Now, the Death Corps of Krieg are fairly controversial for a couple of different reasons. Their lore is super grimdark. Their planet failed at something, and they were supposed to be wiped out, but they weren't, and now they feel bad about it. And essentially, they're super nihilistic. They're all suicidal. The best glory they can imagine is dying in battle for the Emperor. There are all these jokes and memes about how like the saddest Krieg trooper is the one who wins the battle and stays alive. They also have a very distinctive style to their uniforms and their equipment. And I don't have a picture loaded up. You can go and look at them if you want, but it's a gas mask. It's a certain type of helmet, certain type of jacket. And if you know your European history, you can identify like, oh, this is World War One, yeah, German infantry. This is that. But a lot of the less savory people who are in the Warhammer community think that they look more like some Nazi things, and then they'll even decorate them that way. And yeah, exactly. It's a mix. It's a mix of inspirations from World War One armies. That being said, there was definitely a character to this army, and people had stories and their own ways of playing it. That's fine. I'm not shaming people for liking or appreciating the Death Corps of Krieg army. I do think it was kind of silly. I do think the lore was yeah, yeah, it's a thing. Look, some people are attracted to that sort of nihilistic character, but it wasn't for me, but it's for some other people. Anyway, the big news with the Legends is that just about all of the models that were made for that army are no longer in print. They are Legends. Games Workshop did actually give them some new rules, so you could play them now, but they don't really have the same flavor that they used to, and that's probably okay. Some other Astra Militarum stuff got shifted off to Legends. Now, where does the Legend stuff affect me personally? Well, I am very sad to state that one of my favorite models that I love to play in my Emperor's Children army is my Sonic Dreadnought. I should have brought it over here and I didn't. But you've all seen it before. It's a Dreadnought. It's like a box on legs. It's insanely brightly colored. I inherited it from somebody who painted it before. It has every color in the world. It has the zebra stripe greaves on its legs. That model specifically has been out of print for decades, I think. In 8th edition Warhammer, there was an FAQ for the Forge World book that gave you rules on how to play Sonic Dreadnoughts. Now in the Legends, just the loadout of equipment they have is in the Legends, so you can still play it. It's not like it's gone forever, but it'll never be updated again. And it doesn't technically have its own data sheet. It's just a Hellbrute that you can equip with Blastmasters and a Doom Siren. So I will still be playing it, but it won't be super competitive, and it won't ever get FAQ'd again or errated. Whatever. What are you gonna do? As far as more general erratic, so another thing that Games Workshop does is the release schedule is so rapid. They'll come out with a new codex, if not every week, every couple weeks. So last week the Death Watch and Space Wolves, well, codex supplements came out, but I read things in chat and then it goes in my eyes and then back out my mouth. So the Space Marines Codex came out just a couple weeks ago. They've already issued a bunch of erratas and FAQs, but these are good. They fixed things. Some of the wordings were just wrong. Like I talked about the heavy intercessors in the new book. They copied and pasted the wrong text, or it was essentially they left in early placeholder text and then changed what it referred to in other places, so it didn't make any sense. They fixed it. It's all good. We can play things again. So next today, we're going to talk about Orks a little bit, because I did some Ork building this week, and it was a lot of fun, and it made me think of Ork things. Move this stuff around. And I've got my Ork Blood Bowl team. I've got my Ork army. So yeah, as I talked about before, there was the stars aligned a couple of years ago. My son was just getting into Warhammer, which I know sounds silly because he was 4 at the time, 4 turning 5. But he saw all my stuff around. He wants to know about it, so I taught him the basics. I do make the language a little less grim dark for him when we play. His people aren't units and models aren't killed; they flee from the battlefield, things like that. I try to refer to every type of ranged weapon as a blaster rather than a gun or anything like that. So yeah, small changes, but we play by the whole all the rules. Like I'm not dumbing it down, just maybe changing some of the language. But yeah, it's good. So anyway, he started getting into like, oh, what are these models? He immediately liked orcs when we first started looking at them in the books, and I told him about what orcs are. And at the same time, we were doing Grimdark Dawn over on Hyper, and we needed models. We were playing with a bunch of trying to get as many models and armies as we could, and orcs were definitely something that we wanted to include. And then again, a friend of mine was getting out of Warhammer and looking to sell her orc army. So I thought, all right. So I bought her orc army. So now that's, like I said, that has become my third Warhammer 40K army that I share with my son. So he plays that at home. We've since added a bunch of stuff to it. He's painted a bunch of units. The skulls are clan places. Well, actually, Black Cavalier. So that's one of the things that is also kind of funny. So in our house, not only do I have a million toys, but we have a bunch of like creepy, macabre stuff around. And so our children, well, I mean, now that he's 6, like he knows what a skeleton is and a skull and things like that. But we'd always refer to things as Mr. Bones. So it would be, oh, it's just a Mr. Bones head. And that worked for a while. Yeah, orcs are, we talk about this all the time, but not only are orcs fun to play, but generally orc players they're just the best. They're really salt of the earth people, just looking to have fun. Are orcs super competitive meta level armies? Not usually, but they are super fun. Yes, and they're sentient fungus. So they should be, well, they are asexual, so we should refer to them as they, but Games Workshop does refer to them with male pronouns. I mean, I suppose you could say they generally look male. Well, there's nothing about them that looks traditionally female, but I mean, you can call them whatever you want. They're just fungus. Yes, they reproduce by spores, and again, that's why if you fight against an orc army in the lore, not only do you have to kill them, but you have to burn everything. Otherwise, the spores will create more. And yes, they're called boys for reasons. Non-binary orcs. That's the kind of orcs we like. They're mostly green, but they're not always all green. Yeah, so orcs are super fun. The base orc are the boys. They're just, let's focus. They have this really unique shape to their bodies. A lot of their models are, well, let's say they've been around for a while. Like most of the Xenos armies, they could really use with a refresh of models. But they're certainly fun. They do have a lot of character to them. They're pretty fun kits to build because you get legs that are one piece, you get a torso that's another piece, and then the heads and the arms are separate pieces, and you just get a ton of them on the sprues. So you can mix and match what heads you want, which with which arm combination. Typically, the orc boys either come with a slugga and a choppa, so that is some sort of firearm and some sort of melee hacking thing. But you can also swap some of them out with some heavier guns if you so chose. So those are boys. There are some specialized boys in the orc armies. So again, these are just troops that either happened upon some specialized equipment or received some sort of training from their war bosses. So what my son just finished painting. So these are storm boys, and they are boys with jetpacks. obviously very crude rockets strapped to their backs, but they have the same weapons, the same stats, other than basically the ability to move really far and ignore terrain. And yes, Benjamin just painted these. So those are Storm Boys. And again, there are Burna Boys that have flamethrowers. There are a variety of basically boys with specialized equipment or specialized weapons. And they're super fun. The biggest, the baddest of all orcs are the war bosses. Now there is an in between. So the biggest of the boys becomes or is a knob. Yeah, they're knobs. They're big knobs. Knobs are sort of bigger and tougher, and they're often the leaders of big blobs of boys. See you, Zardoz. Thanks for hanging out. But yes, so the leaders of armies are war bosses. They are significantly bigger than the boys, and you can equip them with a whole bunch of different cool weapons. So that is an example of a war boss. Orcs, while they don't understand math or sciences, they do have technology, and we talked about this a little bit this week when we were building a model that I'll talk about in just a second. But orc technology exists because the orcs are a psychic hive mind, and whatever they believe to be true is, for the most part. So when orcs put together a piece of technology, all they have to do is believe that it will work, and it will work. Their aircraft are not aerodynamic, although more aerodynamic than a lot of Imperium stuff. There's oftentimes they don't even actually have an engine. There's just like a piece of something they stuck in there, and then but if they believe that it will fly and it will work, then it does. Yes, so they have all sorts of cool technologies. So this is a Def Dread, and it's sort of like a Space Marines dreadnought. There is a orc inside this canister essentially, and it clanks across the battlefield with all sorts of goofy weapons and things. Yeah, right. If you believe it, and it will come true. And again, like if you look at the actual like the engine part, like it just has a bunch of engines on the back and all these silly exhaust tubes. It's a goofy thing, but that's why we love it. It makes no sense. Orcs also employ smaller creatures, essentially 40k goblins, but they're called grots. And so this is so there's an orc in this one. But for smaller folks, for the grots, there are, and again, this is a Def Dread. This is what's called a Killacan, and it's a lot smaller. There's just a grot in here piloting, but it's the same basic idea. It's got essentially a canister section for the pilot, and then a bunch of weapons. But yeah, otherwise, again, they've got different weapons you can add: a saw, a drill, different kinds of cannons. These are really cute. I love these guys. One little engine on the back instead of two for the Def Dread. But yeah, super fun. And yeah, orcs love their vehicles. And they have trucks and wagons. Oh, so one of the... Well, I have to put it together real quick. It fell apart. Oh, there we go. That was a good snap. Let's check this out. So this is a battle wagon. It can carry a bunch of troops into battle. It has this thing for killing people on the way. It's got guns on the top. You can equip this thing with a bunch of different weapons and accessories, including melee weapons, like a like a big wrecking ball. And again, how does it work? We just believe it works, and it does. Now, obviously, something like this it's not super fast, it's big, it's clunky, it's heavy, but orcs also really, really love to go fast. And there's a long tradition in Warhammer 40K of orc vehicles and orc traditions of going real fast. So recently, a couple of years ago in 8th edition, Games Workshop revived this idea of the Speed Freaks, and that's a name that had been in Warhammer 40K a long time ago. But the new Speed Freaks, it was actually a boxed game itself, so you could buy this big box that came with a mat that was essentially like a racetrack. Oh, battle wagon! Yeah, that's true. The battle wagon is that one's not slow. That one is fairly quick. Hold on 1 second. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome.
How's it going so far?
It's going great.
I'm so glad.
We're talking about orcs.
Okay, so I came at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So tell me something. Tell me something about orcs I don't know.
Oh, something you don't know. Why don't you know everything about orcs?
I don't know if that's true.
They have spaceships.
Yeah, but only
really spaceships.
Well, yeah, because they believe they will fly, right?
Yeah, well, orcs and other people too. They have things called space hulks, and it's like they get a rock in space, like an asteroid, and they just stick a bunch of stuff onto it, like engines and random compartments, and then they're like, "Yeah, it'll fly through space, sure."
So why is that? Like, who decided that is like a like literally like a good piece of the lore? Like someone went, "This is a good idea."
That is an excellent question. I don't know,
because it seems so half-assed in a weird way, but it makes sense because the orcs are insane.
Yeah,
but,
and then
yeah.
Now they do have some actual spaceships of their own. It's usually things that they've, like everything else, it's something they've taken from someone else, reworked, added a bunch of extra garbage to it, and somehow it flies through space.
I mean, I love it. So why did they? I know you've. Hi everybody. Hi Lord Talnek. Hi Savage, Muchlek, and Patty, and hi Pete. So I think you told me before, but why did they change the rules about if it's red? Hi Fadier. If it's red, it goes faster.
I think it was different editions of Warhammer have definitely been more or less silly over time, and I think that was more of a silly time.
I see.
So yeah, I mean there are still references to that, but it's not as explicit in the rules.
It's not a rule necessarily.
Right. I mean, I think there's a stratagem that references that, so you can like pay a point and then a vehicle can go faster, or there was something like that. I don't know all the latest. Yeah, Evil Sons has a movement thing that's based on that.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it's such a funny thing to retcon so much of this world and maybe I'm wrong, and I don't know D&D intimately either, but I feel like each edition doesn't drastically change the world so much as it just adds a bunch of stuff. But I might be wrong about that.
Yeah, overall it depends, but yes, there's definitely things in Warhammer that are drastically different. The lore has changed hugely over the years. One of the and that's actually a really good topic to talk about, because especially when it comes to how can we evolve this game and this lore to be more inclusive, to be more diverse, to get more people in. You get some people who have been in this hobby for a very long time who are very much against that, and no, nothing can change. But that's silly, because Games Workshop has been changing the lore since the very beginning.
Yeah, but then you look at like all the people like our Jessie Gender, who's just like, this is why I don't like this show, Star Trek. It's like, she has to deal with that all the time on her YouTube channel comments, and it's just like, this is something I've been marveling about lately, but just more how our identity works with regards to this thing I've never seen before. I identify with that somehow. Like, people like get attached. You got attached to that not Transformers show, the battle techs or whatever. Like, that was now that's part of your identity. And that's really awesome. So I guess when something changes, it does feel like it's directly reflecting or it's changing something that we ascribed our identity to or that we related to. But also it does speak to that person's inability to accept change too, I think.
Right. And I would always like to say that if a property that you like goes through changes, if it's still thematically, if it has the core, the feeling, like what was it about it that got you into it? Was it just like the look of one specific thing? Was that it? Then okay, then just find those models and just play that forever.
Right.
Or does it feel the same? Okay, well then try a new thing. Let it be open to new players. I think it depends on like what specifically we're talking about, but I understand what you're saying.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to also be nice. Like there's people who are like, we don't need women in this, or you know what I mean? Like there's different things that betray certain aspects of people's identity, including their toxic masculinity and what have you, but that's true. But like, it's also, I challenge how much people actually care versus wanting to have something interesting to talk about because they're not that interesting themselves. But they're like, oh, I heard someone have this hot take and it sounded really cool when that asshat said it. So I'm just going to regurgitate it.
That's all. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. That's certainly fair. Now, obviously a lot of this comes into play when we talk about female space marines. What?
I mean, Deep Rock Galactic, I want them to have a female. And again, like, I don't care. Sure. I'm going to play the game. But why not? It's like, why not?
Right, exactly. Why not? They'll give you, no matter what it is, that game or this game, they'll give you all sorts of silly, goofy reasons. And at the end of the day, it's just because the creators don't want to do it.
Well, but also a bunch of men were making the fucking show and didn't think about, should women do this? It's oversight. I told you, I talked about it a couple times online. The letter I sent to Nintendo. I play your games and all your advertising is for boys.
Yeah.
The special guest has arrived, Sylvester. Yes. Hi, Eridan. So we don't know what's going on with Sylvester yet. So there's not great news.
Okay.
But everyone's gonna hear me talk about it another time. But and actually, it's good to bring it up in case anyone has any experience with it. But it's like a bifragmentation hernia in a enlarged heart and like something on the spleen. And depending on if it is an actual enlarged heart, they won't do surgery on other things. And they have to like determine what the mass is and stuff like that. So it's just bunch of crap.
Oh, kitties.
Yeah, but it's okay.
Okay. All right. Oh, and then but just to give an example of how the lore has changed and how silly everything can be, because again, at times, even Warhammer 40K, the grim dark future was super silly. There was a character in the lore in the books at one time, and his name was, you ready for this? Obi-Wan Sherlock Clouseau.
Why? Why did someone do that?
Because at times the game leaned way into parody and at times less, and they've changed the lore over the years.
Is it like the blue character in the Guardians of Galaxy? He's like, is he cool? I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. Is that like the guy who's like, I heard all these cool names of these dudes?
I guess, yeah. I don't know why. I don't know the origin story of this character here. I'll put the name in the chat. But yes, that's so literally a character that was in the lore. And again, and at one time they made models of female space marines. There was a supplement. It wasn't like an actual rule book, but it was in a magazine that had female space marines in it. There was a half Eldar space marine. So like all of this stuff exists out there, and for people to pretend that, oh, you can't change the lore because once upon a time they said that space marines could only be made from boys. Give me a break. It's all None of this is real. They can change whatever they want.
But I guess I was gonna say, like, I don't want to watch any new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Do you know what I mean? But like,
right. But it doesn't take away the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that you like.
No.
And if because of those movies, even if you don't like them, if more people get into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then they make more money, and then they can make more Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in different ways, then there might be something again that you do like.
It's possible. Fuck if I know.
Right? And maybe they'll make a video game that you'll enjoy playing, even if it looks like those new Turtles. Right?
Or yeah, I guess it's just like why are we? I guess it's interesting. You care so much about a thing, you have a sense of ownership over it, and then it's just fast. It's just interesting to me, I guess.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I can see why people get butthurt about it. Wasn't there a rat faction called Skaven?
Well, yeah. So Skaven are in the fantasy world of Warhammer.
What a good segue.
Which we can talk about. And yeah, so far Skaven have not made it into Warhammer 40k. There are beast men, but there are no rat men. There should be. I really don't know why they haven't added Skaven to 40k. Sometimes people wonder if anytime there's a rumor of like, oh, there's going to be another race introduced to 40k, like, will it be Space Skaven? But not yet.
What was the most recent addition race-wise?
Oh, it's been a while since like a whole new thing was added. What was it? Was it Dark Eldar? Was that the last one? They made smaller additions, but not like an entire new.
I see, like
faction for a while.
factions.
Yeah, it's been a while. And Jessica, you haven't had the pleasure of doing this yet, but one of the cool things about building Orks, is creating your own monstrous vehicles out of anything you find anywhere. So I showed this last time on my stream, but this is something that, again, the person that I bought this orc army from started this looted orc wagon, whatever you want to call it. But
dumb.
The central part of this is a Space Marines Rhino backwards with an orc biker attached to the front of it. These are pieces from a Tau hoverjet on the sides, and then all sorts of other crap on top. It's unfinished. I will one day add more pieces to this, but
I love this so much. See, it's like in that chaos too. Mm-hmm. There's like such symmetry.
Yeah, and there are rules. I mean? Yeah, and the rules aren't in like the main book, but they're in supplementary books on how you can play something like this. Basically, you can give rules to it. There are three different size classifications of looted orc vehicles, and then basically you pick what size it is, and that tells you how many weapons you can put on it, and then you can play it.
Hi, Emily. So I have a model that I did build over at Scott's, and I built a little grot. There she is. And then I built, was it a grot army or was it an orc army? Little like
you built a bunch of
some
orcs.
Boys.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But and Scott primed them, and that one I've probably been working on since 2 Christmases ago, right? That's how long I've had it.
Yeah, I guess
I've had it for a while. So what I'm thinking, I want to build terrain pretty badly. Darrow's terrain. That's Darrow's, right? Yeah. Darrow's terrain.
Yeah,
really is inspiring. It really makes me want to like get some balsa wood and go crazy.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
So the only other thing I wanted to say was with all of the Speed Freaks. So this was one of them. So they're just new vehicles. They typically go very fast. They shoot out and throw a bunch of random weapons. So I had built this one for Hyper a little while back. And essentially, it's a jet engine that broke off of an airplane, and they stuck wheels and treads on it, and now it's a vehicle. And if you look at the sort of the stock version of this, how they tell you to build it, I built it, and then I added a ton of extra orc parts all over it.
I saw you talking about that on Friday, Thursday, Wednesday.
Maybe? Yeah. So again, that's the other thing. Even when you buy a standard orc kit, you got to go nuts and stick on a bunch of extra stuff and chop it up and do whatever you want. And yeah, so the latest thing I built this week is the race car.
Wow, look at that!
Which even has saw blades in the front to chop up people.
That
so, yeah,
is
this
so
one's neat.
Cool.
So these are in the line
so cool.
It's got a crazy engine in the back that can make essentially boom tube jumps across the battlefield.
No way.
Super fun.
Yeah, go for it, Simon. I didn't say yes, but if you want to, go for it. I'm not aiding and abetting a known criminal, but
yeah, there are third party companies that have a bunch of their own orc models or bits, heads, lots of different heads, lots of different arms. Again, depending on where you look, some of them have some themes that are a little bit less savory than others because some less than savory people play these games and like to do models. So just, be aware. You might come across things that are borderline or way over the line offensive when you go to some of these stores. It happens. It happens. Yeah, I mean, I can talk about orcs all day, but why don't you tell us what you've been playing that's related to Warhammer?
Well, yeah, I don't know much about it, but I think I can share the screen if I pull it up.
Cool.
I played one game of it, and I liked it, or one stream of it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Show these tips again. Application window.
So I will say while you're bringing that up.
Okay, go for it.
For a long time, Games Workshop had Warhammer 40K, which is in around the year 40,000. Now, again, we're in the year 42,000-ish. And also Warhammer Fantasy. So that's where you had your elves, your orcs, your Skaven, although a lot of those things are in 40K, but kept it separate. A number of years ago, they literally nuked the fantasy world. There was this thing called the End Times. They blew it up. It's gone. And a new world has come in its place and now that's the Age of Sigmar. So that's the current fantasy game. Yeah, so it's a little bit of background. And go.
But you have to allow it.
I do. Do I?
Yeah.
Okay. Like that.
Yep.
I played a video earlier, but I didn't know how to make it have sound. So I was this close to getting it right.
Oh, this has sound, right? So far? It's
Not
low.
that I can hear. I don't hear it.
Hold on.
Is there a different button for that?
Yeah.
Because I clearly did not hit it earlier. Ooh, I like this view.
Yeah, this view is actually better, strangely.
I hear something, but it's low.
Yeah, it's low.
A Lady of the Lake, you say?
I'm into it. So apparently this character is a DLC character. You have to buy something else to play him.
Ah, womp womp. I bring you love. I bring you peace. Kill him.
I want that.
Don't we all? Throw it back. Throw it back.
Oh. Why the fuck did he drink it in the first place? Oh, shit.
Arise, chicken.
Okay, dude, who are you talking to? So, yeah, I don't know that. So the game itself, let's see if I can start a new level, the prologue, so you can see what happens. Is this cool?
Yeah.
Oh wait, is this the prologue
Oh,
again?
that's looks like the same thing again.
Okay. Bye. Let's see. Hey, Sylvester. Hi, buddy. Oh yeah, this is it.
Okay. How many games start like this?
What do you mean, like this?
Yeah, like where you're riding in something that's you're waiting while it does some voiceover. Because isn't there another game that what's the game where you start in the wagon that they make all those memes out of?
I'm sure there's shit like this. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's common enough.
Yeah. Skyrim, that's right. Yeah, and again, I've never played Skyrim, but I've seen so many.
The Skittergate is what they're talking about. So you fly by this thing that they're building.
Right. That's cool.
What? You have failed us again. You erect. You swore the bet was written.
My most humble and devout apologies. Fierce, brutal savage. Worthless minions, shaming your eyes. Holy, set back. We medicate, fix this, prove it.
Fix the gate.
You're sniveling. I have an endless sword of bloodlust bleeding, ravenous for slaughter.
Bye.
Now, call me the one.
This bodes well.
Crunch.
Sorry, buddy. Sorry, sweet boy. All right.
That's good. Yeah, so this game takes place during those end times.
So tell us about it while I play this.
Sure.
For this.
So yeah, basically in the end times, everything that could go wrong goes wrong for all of the good races in this Warhammer world. The forces of chaos ascend to just huge amounts of power. These Skaven, these rat guys, they open up a portal that lets more chaos come in. They blow up a moon. It's just
so this is part of the lore, like legitimately letting up them.
that Skittergate. Yeah, that's part of the lore. And it literally culminates with, well, the bad guys win and the world ends, and just a couple of heroes survive to then essentially start the new world. And again, I'm vastly simplifying thousands and thousands of pages of lore and and everything else, but that's the basic thing.
So what's interesting to me is, why am I playing a game of something where they failed?
That's a good question. Yeah, and I was talking to a friend of mine who's way into every version of Warhammer, and he was talking about this. And because in this,
I've got a little something for you.
because what they said is that these Vermintide games, they don't have a ton of story on their own. Each level has like a small story, but overall, it's like, yeah, there are these big things happening around. I don't know. I guess maybe once you get to the end, it's that idea of like you're trying to fight against these literal earth destroying events, and there's only, what can you do against that? Well, not much.
I think it's just like the setting more than anything. Like, hey, here's a bunch of cool places to fight people.
Yeah, and there are rat people.
Gross. And
you just slaughter
better than fighting real humans, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, because you just fight Skaven and Chaos people in this, I believe, right?
Yeah, there's also like chaos fart monsters and
right, yeah, and then some larger like sub bosses and things. But Yeah, well, in Age of Sigmar, there are
Guess I found my first.
the factions are a little bit different, and then but some of them come back. It's a lot.
And there's
Yeah, there've been a couple different versions of this game. This is the second one.
the second one. Yeah, some people were asking, and I don't know if this is better than the first one. I know people like this game though, especially some Easy Allies bros get after it.
Yeah, I know the first one was pretty popular as well.
I have pizza coming.
A surprise. You have pizza coming?
I sure do.
Nice.
Better get that bow.
And from what I've read, that it was basically the guys who made the company, that Fat Shark company, they had always been fans of Warhammer, and they'd wanted to do something related to Warhammer, but they weren't big enough, and they didn't have the staff and the capability. And then another game company folded, and they brought in a bunch of their people, and they're like, wait, now we have enough people, we can do a Warhammer game. And they contacted Games Workshop, and essentially by saying how much they loved the property, Games Workshop said, all right, you can make a game.
Whoa.
And
How funny is that?
Super successful ever since. So
you kind of want people to feel like have a not responsibility, but a love for a game, because you'll put it into that, you know.
Yeah. We're
running. Let's see. I don't know. I think I've been here. Yep, I've been here. Oh, I see.
That doesn't sound like GW, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know how exactly that worked out. Maybe they caught the ear of the right person at the company, or it was right place at the right time.
Oh, you mean their willingness to actually do it? Say, go, okay, fine, do it.
To go with an untested element, yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay.
Where am I going?
I don't know. Yeah, now again, in just the last few years, Games Workshop has opened the floodgates as far as the licensing goes. We have action figures. There are multiple companies doing Warhammer clothing, novelties, notepads, things like that. There's a lot more on the way eventually. Obviously, COVID has slowed things down, but yeah, the licensing push has been crazy. And then also reaching out into new audiences. They came out with a line that keeps going of young adult Warhammer novels. Currently reading one of those with my son. It's just a little bit more mature than his level. So,
any news on the front that you had initially of your idea?
Yeah, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. Okay, this guy sucks. So is there anything about this world in particular that you really like, or is it just not your bag of tea?
So yeah, I never played anything in Warhammer Fantasy. I don't know. I know about it like in broad strokes, essentially, but I don't know that much about the specifics. The new fantasy world, Age of Sigmar, that's the one that has these cool dwarves that I like. But they didn't exist in actual Warhammer Fantasy.
Oh, this guy, he's a sprout or a squat?
Ungrateful bugger, ain't you?
Oh no, these are the Age of Sigmar dwarves, the Caradron overlords. They have all the armor on. They don't show their faces.
Oh, I see. I'm going to grab my pizza. Mama's,
yes.
You can keep them interested.
Do it.
I got regular and vegan.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, and if you are video game players, you know that there are a ton of Warhammer video games out there. They work with a bunch of different companies. There are different styles of those games. I'm sure somebody in chat can give a better description of them than me, only because I don't really play video games. The only one I had in any real capacity was I downloaded for Steam the Battlefleet Gothic game, which is a spaceship fighting game. But I couldn't really get it to work, so I haven't really played it. and it's super complicated, and I don't have the time to learn how to do all the controls. But yeah, the Warhammer video game series is super expansive. Tons of games that people really like. So whatever part of that universe you're into, fantasy, 40K, whatever game style you're into, there's probably a video game out there that you would enjoy. And of course, Blood Bowl. Blood Bowl. Right. Oh, yes. Thank you. And there are role-playing game versions of a lot of these worlds too. Obviously, I mainly talk about the miniature game, the war game, which you can certainly imbue with characters and narratives, but that's not built in. You essentially have to add that and work hard to make that a part of the game. But there are role-playing games where you can embody characters. It's all the narrative, level up, and all that sort of good stuff. Anybody watching right now who has played any Warhammer games or play them now? I know there was a Dark Angels game that came out not that long ago. There was a Death Watch game. There's a game that's coming up soon. Another one of these coming soon games. What is it? I think you played. Was it an Astra Militarum? I don't know. There's so much. Right, the Dawn of War games are super popular, super famous.
Hi, Sylvester.
Yeah, so there are lots of Warhammer games out there. Space Marine, another very famous game. I think
Do you
I
want me to
downloaded
stop
that on
playing
Steam
this?
as well. No.
I can stop playing it.
No, if you like it. If you
Yeah.
want to eat, you don't have to.
Well, no, I'm just saying.
Eating typically does get in the way of playing.
Uh-huh. Mm.
Man, no, I want pizza.
I know.
Can we get pizza tonight? Oh, the answer was sure. I don't know. Squirrel, we're having pizza tonight.
Squirrel, I was hoping you were here. This is all for you. It's actually, I think, the first... Oh, no, I had Big Mutants today.
Heal, Barden. Now, this is the game where you can play this one multiplayer, right?
Yes, and that's how we came into it. It was exactly that. I started playing a different character.
I see. Right. This is all secretly subliminal pizza advertising. And at the end, you'll get a coupon if you watch it.
It's so good, dude. I love food.
Oh, you have a little dwarf friend.
I do.
Try that lever over there by the gate. Will do. Let's
Oh,
find
he
out.
has an interesting accent.
That's
There's actually really excellent accents in this
right.
game.
Ready to kill you
Cool.
while you're out of here.
This chick, I think, is fucking
Sandwich. Yes, still plenty.
really badass. I can also let the dwarf do all the work.
Nice.
I think this chick is got one of the better, Scottish accents. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
I heard ya. Did Alicia help you out?
Aye, she did. She set up some kind of portal for us.
She's the one I want to play, or I am playing.
And see
Oh,
ya.
nice.
We'll look
She's
for
a
her
ranger.
now.
Alicia. So.
They made the girl be the elf as usual.
Who's got a problem with that, though?
Yeah, that's no problem. It's just
There's there's a magician too, though, that is a
okay.
woman.
Supplies over
Cool.
there. No sense leaving stuff for the vermin.
Pretty
That's
funny.
Are there any it'd be cool if you can play a renegade good Skaven.
Oh, that would be cool. I bet you there's a
I
DLC
don't
for
know
it
if-
or something.
To be honest, I don't even know if that exists in that universe. I don't know if they can be renegades. I don't know that much about Skaven, unfortunately. Except
That'd
they're
be pretty
rat people.
cool, though.
Mates, vermin up here, birds.
And I watched there's a miniature hobbying channel on YouTube where a guy gives a lot of advice for those of us who are getting a little bit older and maybe have a hard time painting tiny details and things like that.
So look,
But,
old lady.
Oh, there you go. But one
I don't know
of
what she is.
one of this guy's videos was about how he doesn't paint eyes on his miniatures for a couple of different reasons. Number one, it's very hard to paint eyeballs on miniatures, as I can attest to, and I'm sure there are people in chat who can also talk about that. But he also talked about the fact that there's like an uncanny valley thing that happens when you paint eyeballs, because you paint the white part of the eye and you can always see that on the model even if it's a few feet away, whereas humans, as if you're more than a certain distance away, you don't see that part of the eyes. So in some ways it makes it less realistic.
Weird.
Which is, yeah, and once that gets in your head, then it's like you can't stop thinking about that.
Of course.
But he talked about the fact that for Skaven miniatures, that it can be really neat just to do a dot of red, because their eyes reflect light like animal eyes, so many animal eyes do. And that does make more sense even on a miniature that you're seeing from far away, because like we've all seen cats and things at night out on the street, and just you see those reflected eyes, which are cool.
Then again, we're going up a bloody high cliff on a Skaven.
Isn't weird just baseline? What's weird?
Baseline Jess is weird.
Listen,
That's fair.
not dying from anything rolled by Skaven force today, darling. Not after this.
Her name is Sienna Fuego something, so like all of her name means red and fire. That's funny.
And the eternal shame of being filled and caught by a rat.
Fueled.
Oh, the rats. So you're
He's
all
little.
So you're all people who had been captured and broke out of the Skaven hive.
Yeah.
Nest, maybe. Interesting.
And then we go around like it's hired help.
Twisted and torn asunder by corruption.
Todd's teeth. Back to normal for us.
Who's
then.
tall?
I don't know.
Remember, we're not clear yet, mates. Find that portal and salt spire.
This is Vermintide 2. Dun dun dun. Ooh, the Bridge of Shadows. Yeah, this game looks fun.
No dawdling or
I was wondering if you would be interested in playing it.
Maybe?
Good to see you too, Grimgy.
Well, her accent is Scottish, isn't it, Simon? There's an actress who I know that has a similar accent.
No spoilers for Squirrel.
And then this one again.
Oh, we're back to this guy.
So that's the beginning of the game.
So apparently, in the end times, or in Warhammer Fantasy, there was a Lady of the Lake character, and in the end times, you find out who exactly she is and what she does. I don't know any more than that, unfortunately. Oh, Jessica,
So
I wanted to show you.
So you can't spoil it.
I can't. So we looked at the pre-order for this last week.
Oh, yes.
That guy. So I picked him up this morning and built him.
Did you get me one?
I was only able to pre-order one, unfortunately.
Fine. Look at him. He's cool.
He's good. Yeah, he's got his glass there. He's got a bunch of weird bits and bobs and his little thing on his back. I can't figure out how to hold him straight. But yeah, pretty neat. So I can swap.
It.
So I can use him as any one of these other. Essentially, he doesn't have his own rules, but I can use him as like this guy in my Caradron Overlord's army. Just swap him for something else. Yes.
I like him.
I also, Jessica, wanted to show you. We were looking at these. So I bought this orc army from a friend of mine, like as I said, when she was getting out of the game, and it included a bunch of painted stuff, vehicles, a bunch of unpainted stuff, bags of things that squirrel.
That's maybe what I thought.
It was a good answer, though, right?
Sure.
You can get out of the game. Pandar, somehow some people do. So, Jessica, I wanted to show you because, again, we talk about how things change in the game, change in lore, change in styles and aesthetics. So these used to be the aesthetics of the orcs.
What?
These were Warhammer 40k orcs.
Look at those fucking feet.
a long time ago. And again, if they didn't hold that gun, it would just be like a fantasy orc or a hobgoblin.
What the fuck?
Isn't that cool?
I don't know. It looks like
So-
the face of the mayor from Nightmare Before Christmas.
Fair. So versus what they look like now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, like just an interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it
And-
does look like it's 90s New couch.
Yeah, so we figured out that these were second edition from the second edition starter set. And I've got a bunch of these. 2 baggies full of these guys.
We're going to
I was
paint
thinking-
them?
Eventually. Yeah, because I was thinking these might have been recast or something, but these are just plastic, so these must have been the actual ones. They're neat. I like these models.
Are they
There's-
of value or just...
There's what people were telling me is that this set had a bunch of these, so these are pretty common these days. But there was a cardboard punch out figure that you could make, and like that apparently is worth a lot because so many kids like either bent it or lost it. But if you have that, which I don't, it didn't come with this.
Okay,
batch of things.
question I've never asked. Do you have, or okay, what is the most valuable Warhammer thing, and what's the most valuable Warhammer thing you have?
That's a good question.
I know.
From time to time, Games Workshop will do limited edition models that you can only get. I mean, like technically, this dude today, you can only get this in stores this week or online for 2 weeks, and then like they'll never make this again. So that they'll make a fixed number and that's it forever. So there's a lot of stuff like that ends up being, well, it's rare, but then like the better ones are obviously worth more just because people want them. There is a list though of like the craziest, rarest of all things. There's a model. I'm trying to think of all of them. There was a model that was given out to Games Workshop employees as like a Christmas gift or something. So there were literally like there was only 40 of these things made, and that was it. And then they broke the mold, and there's never been more. And every once in a while, somebody will sell one, and it'll go for hundreds of dollars, and it's just a little tiny guy. So there's stuff like that. We talked earlier. There's a Space Marines vehicle called a Thunderhawk, and it's a big. I mean, it's huge. It carries something like 50 Space Marines or something. Obviously, like in the lore, not necessarily in the model. So currently, there is a resin version of that you can buy from Forge World. But once upon a time, the story goes that Games Workshop there was a designer there who really liked the artwork of that vehicle, and they're like, all right, if you want to make it, you can make it. So they made, and there were only, I think it was a couple hundred, so they made a model of it. It's metal, so you have to build this huge spaceship out of metal parts. Apparently it was a nightmare to build. They even said on the advertisements, only buy this if you are an expert modeler. Don't get into this if you don't buy this. Don't spend your money. It came in a fancy crate with all this special padding. And so, yeah, to find an original one of those that hasn't been built or altered is like one of the holy grail for collectors nowadays. And yeah, the Forge World stuff is crazy. Yeah, if you're actually talking, so even at the time, I think it was a few $100s when it came out. Now, the most expensive things you can buy, that's different because from Forge World sells a Tau spaceship that's essentially the size of a coffee table and kind of the shape of one. It's a little pointy at one end, but yeah, it's yeah, as Rob Vegas is saying, the Manta. It's about $1,400, $1,500, depending on conversion. There's also the Warlord Titan, which $1,700. Okay, yeah, so it's gone up. The Warlord Titan is about the size of Maximilian, so it's I can't even show it. I can't even show my arms on screen to show how big it is. But that one's about $1,500. Also, again, depending on what arms you want to buy for it. So yeah, there are very expensive models you can buy for this game.
But are you ever going to play those in a sanctioned game?
You could.
That would be really dumb, right?
Well, I mean, it would need to be at the level that you could include it, and then typically then you run into the problem, okay, if I play it at a high enough level where I can include this thing, is that the only thing that I can play, or are we going to increase the points then even more to get to the point where I can play this and an army around it? That's why, though, Games Workshop also has alternate forms of playing Warhammer, notably the Apocalypse version of the game that's scaled way up in points. So essentially you don't look at, like you wouldn't look at an orc boy, you have just a unit of boys that operates just as, it basically has simplified rules for small units so you can play a lot more things in the game. And that's where you're supposed to, bring out your Titans, bring out your super heavy tanks, all that kind of garbage.
Because otherwise they wouldn't have any money to make.
Yeah, right. Aridin says there isn't anything that would be like $10,000 or more. Not that I can think of, no. Things top out at a couple $1,000s.
And even in special collector items?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything more than that. Now, of course, if you're talking, people will build and paint entire armies and then sell those for, thousands and thousands of dollars. But, that could be a really good deal, actually, if you're getting a lot of those really large models and they're all done and painted well. No, Bandar. I don't know if we've talked about that one. There's a really famous image that goes around on Warhammer boards and groups of a tournament that happened once where it's a great picture. There's a player who's arguing with a judge who's looking at a book, and then there's another guy by the gaming table, and he's like this. He's like, because the arguing guy in the back, he figured out like this crazy way to deploy his army where he didn't have any models on the board at the beginning, so that he could bring in all of his guys after turn one and in turn one behind his enemy, and it was unstoppable. But then the other guy figured out like the one possible way to counter that by setting up his forces in a very specific way that just meant he automatically won, because the other guy couldn't bring in his models because of the way he set up. It's great. And so you see the guy like arguing, pointing at the book. It's classic story of Warhammer 40K.
Did they end up like fixing like rules because of that one?
Yeah. Those thankfully those rules are no longer like that anymore.
Lord Talnak, I'll build someone's army and paint it for them. Not gonna guarantee it's great. I think I do a good job though.
But yeah, people with money go out and buy boxes and boxes of models and then deliver those boxes to somebody for a commission, and then the artist builds it all and paints it all and then delivers a fully painted army.
I'll do it.
Easy.
I'll do it.
You'll do it? Okay. And yeah, and even those Titans. There was a dude who I used to see a lot on Facebook. I haven't seen his stuff lately, but
he's
dead.
Yeah,
he might be. But yeah, he would do that. He would do that sort of commission work, building Titan after Titan for people, full painted. Yeah, it's that story, the wheels story. So great, so good.
I actually do dilute my water, my paints with my piss water.
There are also a lot of really good. They're just like images that pop up every time. I'm sure Rob has seen all of these, but they're of especially American servicemen overseas playing Warhammer with just like whatever random stuff they could find to use as terrain and things. Those are really cool.
That is cool.
Oh, then we're talking about.
Go ahead.
Yes, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Nope.
You go.
No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
As far as orcs go, we were talking about sort of from boys all the way up to Speed Freaks to the battle wagon, which is really neat.
Whoa!
Have you seen this one?
No. I love it. What great detail.
That moves. and you can take off parts to do different loadouts of weapons and things.
Cool.
Yeah. It's great. Again, this was the lady that I bought this army from. She did a really good job painting this. But there's an itty bitty grot gunner up there.
There's a grot. That's a grot right there.
And then, of course, the largest standard orc model. Oh my goodness! Hold on, I need 2 hands. Is the Stompa.
Yes, that I've seen. I love. That's the largest.
The largest standard. There from Forge World. There have been a couple larger ones, different versions of this and other things. But yeah, just really goofy design. We'll paint this one day.
Yeah. So next week, that's what I was going to say. Next week, we've got to, we'll be able to paint.
Okay.
Right?
Yes. I'm all about it.
And then
next week we paint.
Then we'll talk about painting.
Yeah. You sent me an interesting link. The guys who are doing, or the guy who does the blackest black and the pinkest pink and stuff. One of the Warhammer YouTubers got the Blackest Black 2.0 and Blackest Black 3.0 and did a test. He got the same Warhammer miniature, a bunch of them, and then did one in the standard GW black paint, the Vallejo black paint, like a cheap one that you would get like at Walmart or something, although he's in the UK, so it was something else. And then the Blackest Black 2 and the Blackest Black 3. And it was really interesting how those paints worked on miniatures, and they didn't all work great. So before I would buy that pink one, I would want to do some research, see if anybody has used it yet.
Yeah, I think I want to buy. No matter if we got it, it'd be used somehow or another.
For sure, yes.
And I definitely, what I thought was interesting is more would the hue be in a world that you like?
Yeah, I think so.
It seemed like that.
Could I bring it up and share the screen? Is that possible?
It's a good video too.
Let's see. Well, I can't figure out how to do audio when I share my screen. So
there's a button you can click depending on.
Oh, you say that.
It depends on if you're sharing application window or.
Why don't I see? Oh, here we go. Culture Hustle USA. That's right. Ooh, they have tins now. Powders, potions. Oh, I get so confused with this stuff. Is it a powder or a potion? Yes, what?
Well, I imagine it's a powder, then you just add water to it, depending on.
All right, I'm going to share my screen. Watch out, everybody.
Here we go. You got this. I believe in you.
Is it on there?
There it is.
Cool. So this is the world's pinkest pink. It is a powder. Ooh.
I think it's it feels like it's a hot pink, kinda, right?
Let's see. Yeah. It's ultra bright paint. You have to sign an affidavit that you are not Anish Kapoor.
Which is so funny.
When you buy it. Yeah, that story is great. Add water and mix. Ooh, it goes bonkers under a UV or black light. That's cool. Share the black. Disclaimer, we're not actually sure if this is the world's pinkest pink ever. It could well be. It's the pinkest we could come up with, and we've not seen anything pinker. So there you go.
And I want to know what that guy's blackest black looks like.
Oh,
Anish Kapoor's, yeah.
I don't know. Apparently, it's really black. But then this guy has black 2.0 and black 3.0. So I don't know what's the competition.
Well, yeah, because the way they shared the story that I shared with you, it made it seem like he had created black and then this guy like Anish or whatever, Anish, like said, "Oh well, I'm going to copyright it because you did it." It's sort of how it felt.
Yeah, man, I want to try this glowing paint.
What is the glowing paint? Oh. Dude, that'd be cool for your Space Marines.
There's a yellow and a green. Let's see what it looks like. Ooh, lit.
I love that.
That's crazy. Does it actually look like that in the container? Will this play? Oh. Now, can anybody hear that?
No. So if you share the application window, it should give you the option unshare and then share again. Different ways of sharing your screen will give you a sound option to click at the bottom.
I saw no other options.
So wait, there's like click application window, tab, like share full screen.
Here, I'll just move to where it shows it, and we'll look at it. This is lit.
God, that is so cool.
Most powerful, most potent glowing pigment.
God, that's cool.
I want to see where he actually... Yeah, because it's just powder. Even in ambient light. Him. Cool. He's British.
Exactly.
I don't know if that has any.
No, it's got a good pull. Ooh, look at that. That bodes well for him.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, this company, they have a lot of really cool stuff. There's also I guess they have blue glow. There's orange, blue, green, more pink. Yeah, there's this glitter, this diamond dust thing.
Ooh, you would love that.
How fine is it? I don't know. Anyway, lots of stuff, lots of great stuff. But yes, let's plan on paint next week.
What's the rest of your week like?
I have some stuff that's going on behind the scenes, some book stuff I got to do. There's a book conference coming up, and I'm recording a video for that.
Ooh.
So that's good. And we have a parent teacher conference coming up. So I'm sure that's going to be less about how Benjamin is doing and more about how we are doing with checking every box on every screen we have to go through and turning in all the homework and not checking the notes that the teacher is writing somewhere. Oh, it's such a nightmare.
Are you guys not doing that, or?
I mean, we do a lot of it, but it's like it's 5 programs we have to log into every day, and we have to check this and do that, and then return this and take pictures of that. It's
too much.
It's a lot.
I can't imagine there's a lot of people doing that extremely well.
Yeah. So
in general,
it's
not for lack of wanting either. It's just sometimes you just you guys do more than the average beans too.
I mean, we try. We try to.
I mean, you just do. I guess that's not fair. I'm sure a lot of different people have a lot of different stressors, you know.
Yeah, and especially I can't imagine people with multiple children in different grades in different schools that are dealing with different programs, even on top of all of that.
Do you think we'll ever go back to physical schools?
I think so. Eventually.
If we stay in this long enough, do you really think so?
I do. I think for schools that there's a big enough push for not having kids at home all the time. Because, for our economy to work, parents need to work too. That's the most important thing. God forbid, our society works where parents can stay home with children.
Or God forbid.
Can't do that.
God forbid, like we have a UBI or something like that, because computers are going to take over our jobs anyway.
Yeah. So no, but mainly for economic reasons, I think they're going to make sure that children go to school
But there are kids across the country going to school, right? That didn't.
Right. Private schools, there are these pod schools where you can sort of drop your kid off in a place that's sort of going to be safe to go. Hey, Hylian, welcome.
It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's it's the thing. People are trying to figure it out. It's in some cases better than others. we do what we can.
I get it. I
And
mean,
then
I
yeah,
don't, but-
and then my usual other stream stuff this week. I don't think anything particularly crazy is happening. What about you, Jessica? What's happening with you this week?
I don't fucking know. The show ended. Or the mid-season finale ended.
Yes.
And there's still some work to do with regards to that.
Yeah.
But in a good way.
Okay. When
And so we'll see, regular, and then we'll go back to regular streaming.
Sure. When is Heartbeats set to come back? Do we know?
Yeah, February. So
Okay.
I believe beginning of February. I didn't even ask people. I was just like, okay, great. We'll see you guys next year. That means probably like there's a world where I go to North Carolina in January.
Mm.
But depending on what's going on with Sylvester at the time, well, I have to play a couple things by ear. Because financially now it's also like, thank God I have insurance though. So at the very least, like some of whatever I have to do or need to do will be taken care of. And anyway, Fridays I'll be back to regular streaming. I just don't know if it's going to be on Ripley yet or on my channel. And you and I guess we'll have to do remote one more time, right? For whatever.
Yeah.
For tomorrow.
I guess so. Yeah, or Monday.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And yes, if you're watching and you are a member of the Homebuddies Discord, which I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't be by this point, but can I do it from here? Hold on. We have a Secret Santa gift exchange. Today is the last day to sign up. Please go and sign up.
I didn't notice.
Well, you should sign up. We've been telling. I'll send you another message to remind you.
It's not anyone's fault but my own. I'm not saying that
that's fine.
You guys didn't do something. I'm just saying that I'm not always present and available.
That's okay. You don't always have to be. But yes, we're doing a Secret Santa. I love doing Secret Santa gift exchanges, or if you want to call it something else, that's fine. But
who's pings? Who pinged me?
There have been pings. It's fine. It's all
Who
fine.
pinged me? Oh, I
we
turned off
pinged the
some of the
buddies.
notifications because of
That's
my life.
It's all fine. Anyway, so if you're in the Homebuddies Discord and you want to join that, feel free. You do not have to. The more people who join, the more work it is for Pandar. So I mean, you have that. Pandar graciously volunteered to lead the charge in doing the pairings for people and manage the.
Great! I want to just do it to make it harder for him.
Well, then there you go. You know what? You should enter twice then. No, don't enter twice.
I can't afford it.
So that's happening, and there is. Okay, so here's the latest I saw. There's going to be some form of Homebuddies group stream tonight. We don't know exactly what's happening or who's going to be hosting it. And there we are.
I think I'm tapping out
Plans keep changing. There's an evolving situation going on. So that's as much as I can tell you at this point. So stay tuned on the Discord, on the Twitters, and we'll let you know. And I don't know, maybe you won't see any of us. Last week it was just the two of us and Cameron, and we had a great time just chatting. So maybe it'll be something like that.
It was nice to do that, just kind of like, hey, life's not so bad right now.
Pandar's given us all his address, so we all sent him gifts. That's good.
Oh, great. That actually is really smart. If you have the power, why not?
And Emily says that we're like the Grinch.
Would you say you're like the Grinch? You're a gift giver.
Yeah, no, I don't think I'm very Grinchy. All right. Jessica, do you have anything else to tell the fine folks at home?
No, I can't seem to figure out how to jump over this thing, but when I do.
Okay. I wish you luck.
Could you tell I was playing video games this whole time?
There might have been a hint. Well,
you mean like this?
Yeah. Thanks everybody for hanging out and watching the War Room. We'll do this again next week. We'll talk about new stuff. Well, in theory, we'll be painting. We'll have paints. We'll have things to look at. There's lots of we'll bring out some cool inspirational colors on toys and things to look at, which would be cool. And I guess that's it.
Yeah, I'm
All right.
excited to see what we're gonna do with your
Yes.
stuff.
I am as well. Okay, so watch on the Discord for what's ever happening tonight, because I don't know what it's going to be. Okay, bye.
Bye, everybody.